In the news tonight, His Majesty the King and the Czech President discuss anti-terrorism effort and other Middle East developments. The King calls for a collective Islamic effort to fight the misleading ideology and actions committed by extremist organizations in the name of Islam. Yemenis staged the largest protest yet against the takeover by the Houthi militia after Western countries shut their embassies in Yemen over security fears. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. His Majesty the King and Czech President Miloš Zeman held talks on Jordanian-Czech ties and boosting cooperation in political and economic fields. The talks also centered on developments in the Middle East. The two leaders held a one-on-one meeting at Al Husseiniya Palace, where they were joined by Her Majesty Queen Rania and the wife of the Czech leader, who is on his first visit to Jordan as president. During an expanded meeting with top officials from both countries attending, King Abdullah said Islam has been hijacked by extremists and that a collective Arab and Islamic effort is needed to fight terrorism. King Abdullah underlined the importance of supporting regional and international efforts to combat extremism and terrorist gangs which seek to destabilize the region and the world. The talks also covered efforts to achieve peace in the region, and King Abdullah emphasized the need to find a solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict.
Your presence here signifies the strong relationship between our two nations and our two peoples. Again, Your Excellency, your warm condolences on the loss of our pilot is something that has touched me and will touch all Jordanians, and I appreciate the warmth of your words in that respect. Our meeting today, sir, with the Business Forum yesterday, the memorandum of understandings that were signed, again, are the steps that can only bring our nations together. Many of us, I know, see the tremendous challenges that our nation and our region faces, but the relationship we have with your country, with Europe, I believe united we will be able to overcome these challenges. This is why, as we have both talked, we are all facing a global challenge against extremist organizations, but together, Muslims, Christians, members of all faiths coming together, standing united, we will be able to overcome. So this is a global challenge that brings all of us together, and as I said to you in our private discussions, this is a challenge inside of Islam. This is a challenge that Islam needs to be able to combat, and then our friends could all come in together and be able to support us. And this is why we always call on Arab and Muslims to join against extremism, and then our friends around the world to stand behind us. It is a duty for all of us to stand behind our faith, which has been hijacked by extremists, and we know that other religions will stand side by side with Islam against this challenge. I have said for quite some time that we hope that this struggle is on the short term a military one, on the medium term is a security one, but the long term is the ideological one. And this is again where all of us come together as united friends. At the same time, it is very important, and again, your country has shown a foresight in being able to deal with what are the core problems in this region. We need to find a solution to the Palestinian-Israeli problem, because this is one of the issues that obviously extremists use as a rallying cry, and so it's very important for all of us in the international community to bring the Israelis and Palestinians together to solve this problem, because this is an area of contention and an instability that makes the ideological struggle so much more difficult. And again, we appreciate the depth of understanding and maturity that your country brings to this issue. You and I talked briefly about Syria. We all believe in a political solution for Syria as quickly as possible. And again, it shows the depth of understanding that your country has to a very complicated region and the challenges that we see. So again, Your Excellency, your country is looking with tremendous maturity at our region. You have a tremendous understanding of the challenges that we have. We are working all together at regional stability, and you, I believe, have an understanding what it needs to take to move us forward.
The Czech president said the country is keen to forge closer ties with Jordan in various fields. He offered his condolences to the king, government and people of Jordan over the martyrdom of pilot Muad al-Kasasbe, stressing the Czech Republic's backing of Jordan in the war against terrorism. His Majesty bestowed the Renaissance Medal upon President Zeman in recognition of his efforts toward developing Jordan-Czech relations. In recognition of the courage and wisdom of His Majesty, the Czech President bestowed upon the King the White Lion Medal, the highest honor granted by the Czech Republic to a foreign leader.
Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me once more express and convey deepest condolences for the cruel, terroristic action against your pilot. It was the symbol of the cruelty of the so-called Islamic State, and you reacted as a state which is responsible and which is able of counterattack. And this is the reason of the highest Czech order, the Order of White Lion, for your courage, Your Majesty, and strong leadership, because you needn't courage if you live in a non-complicated situation without enemies, without problems, without conflicts. But you need courage if you live in such unstable area like the Middle East. And that's why let me appreciate once more your personal courage and continuation of your policy of your father and your personal policy.
Prime Minister Abdullah Nsur also met the Czech President Miloš Zeman to discuss development in the region. Fighting terrorism was also in the agenda, as well as boosting ties between the two countries. Nsur said Jordan is willing to further expand relations with the Czech Republic, particularly in economic and commercial fields. He said prospects are there for broader cooperation in the renewable energy, tourism and transport sectors, as well as the private sectors in both countries to explore opportunities for business. Nsur said Jordan is seeking to become a role model for small countries with big ambitions through focusing on reform, development and modernization. Nsur said the Middle East is facing huge challenges posed by the Palestinian issue, the Syrian crisis and the threat of the Daesh terrorist group. The Czech leader said Prague is willing to enhance cooperation with Jordan as one of a few stable countries in a turbulent region. He voiced solidarity with Jordan in the fight against Daesh terrorist group. His Majesty the King said a collective effort by all Islamic institutions and organizations is needed to deal with the danger of terrorism committed by extremist organizations in the name of Islam. He told former Sudanese Religious Affairs Minister and President of Islamic Fiqh Academy in Sudan, Issam al-Bashir, that Islam has nothing to do with those cowardly organizations. He said the misleading extremist ideology should be fought and its followers uncovered to protect next generations as part of a strategy based on true Islamic teaching. Bashir extended his condolences over the martyrdom of Jordanian pilot Muad al-Kasasbe, who was killed in defense of his religion and country. Chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff and King's Advisor for Military Affairs, Lieutenant General Mishal al-Ziban, held talks with Iraqi Prime Minister Haidar al-Abadi during a visit to Baghdad. The talks dealt with means of cementing military cooperation between Jordan and Iraq and counter-terrorism effort. In a joint press conference with the Iraqi minister, Az-Zibn said he was in Iraq to deliver a message from His Majesty the King and that Jordan and Iraq are in the same trench, fighting terrorist organizations to defeat them wherever they are. Commenting on recent reports that Jordan deployed additional military units in its eastern border with Iraq, Az-Zibn said armies move according to military needs and that any military movement inside Jordan territory is a sovereign Jordanian matter. He said the Jordan armed forces are capable of dealing with any threat. The army chief also held talks with the Iraqi Minister of Defense, Khalid al-Ubaidi, and discussed with him issues of concern to the armies of the two countries. Minister of Education Mohammed Nebat announced the results of the General Secondary Certificate Examination Tawjihi winter session. At a press conference, Nebat said the measures undertaken by the ministry over the last 3 semesters of the crucial exam have had a positive effect on the quality of education. The minister hailed the Interior Ministry's effort and those of the Audit Bureau and the media for making the examination a success. Nebat congratulated the students who passed the examinations and wished those who failed good luck in the coming terms. U.S. President Barack Obama sent Congress his text for an authorization to use military force in the campaign against Daesh militant group. The text would limit operations against the militants 3 years and bar use of U.S. troops in so-called enduring offensive ground combat. According to the text, Obama also wants to repeal the 2002 measures that authorized the Iraqi war. But his proposal leaves in place a 2001 authorization passed shortly after the September 11 attacks for a campaign against Al-Qaeda and its affiliates. Obama wrote in a letter accompanying the draft that he had directed a comprehensive and sustained strategy to degrade and defeat the terror group. Obama's proposal must be approved by both the U.S. Senate and House of Representatives. John Boehner, the Republican Speaker of the White House, expressed concern that Obama has not sufficiently articulated a strategy for defeating a militant group.
Well, this use of military force to deal with ISIS is an important step forward. And I think the president's going to have to go out and make his case to the American people. I believe that if we're going to authorize the use of military force, the president should have all the tools necessary to win the fight that we're in. And so, as you've heard me say over the last number of months, I'm not sure that the strategy that's been outlined will accomplish the mission the president says he wants to accomplish.
UN envoy Staffan de Mistura met Syrian President Bashar al-Assad in Damascus to discuss his proposal for a ceasefire in the northern city of Aleppo. Aleppo, Syria's second city, is at the heart of clashes between government forces and a range of insurgents, which include Al-Qaeda's Syria wing Nusra Front. After the meeting, de Mistura said his mission was to try to resolve a conflict which had lasted too long and had no military solution. De Mistura refused to reveal any details of the talk with Assad before reporting to UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Meanwhile, Syrian government forces and Hezbollah took new ground in a major offensive in southern Syria. Thousands took to the streets in the Yemeni capital Sana'a and the city of Ta'ez to protest the Houthi takeover. Major embassies closed their doors and withdrew their staff as tensions escalate. Armed Houthi rebels seized more than 20 U.S. vehicles after the ambassador and diplomats left the country. This report has more.
Yemenis in Sana'a held one of the largest protests yet against the takeover by the Houthi Shiite militia group. The Iranian-backed movement has called its seizure of power in Yemen a revolution and says it wants to rid the country of corruption and economic peril. People gathered in the capital shouting anti-Houthi slogans and holding banners calling for an end to tyranny of the Houthis regime and demanding another coup to rid the country of them.
We took to the street to confirm the rejection of the Houthi coup and to restore glory of the February Revolution and restore the Yemenis' dream.
Yemen has long been at the forefront of the U.S.-led war against Al-Qaeda, but the long-standing alliance between Washington and Sana'a appears to have ended for now. The Houthis, who formally took power last week, are stridently anti-American. Their leader Abdel Malik al-Houthi has also blasted what he calls Western meddling in Yemen. Last night, Houthi forces advanced far into the south in an attempt to expand their territory, which has angered many and is raising fears of an all-out civil war. Tribes from Yemen's formerly independent south have vowed to repel any Houthi attack. International responses were swift and decisive. The United States closed its embassy in Yemen, and Britain followed suit by withdrawing its staff and temporarily suspending operations due to security concerns. Employees of both the US and Germany embassies said they are getting rid of documents and weapons, and that the ambassadors and other staff would leave today. Nancy Khair for the news at 10.
Ukraine's President Petro Poroshenko said the conflict in his country's east will go out of control without a ceasefire. Poroshenko also said his government is prepared to introduce martial law in all Ukrainian territories if the crisis continues to escalate and peace talks fail. He spoke before he arrived in the Belarus capital of Minsk to join a peace summit with the leaders of Russia, Germany and France. Here's more.
Violence continues to grip eastern Ukraine, with no political solution in the horizon between Kiev and Russian-backed separatists. This is the aftermath in the central Donetsk region, where a shell hit a bus. At least 2 people were killed. Kramatorsk is another troubled hotspot. Residents are still shocked after yesterday's rocket attack, which killed 15 civilians. The rebels denied firing on the town, but their apparent ability to strike so far into Ukrainian-held territory could complicate the peace talks. The negotiations aim to re-establish a ceasefire that the separatists had shunned with a new offensive last month. People were seen piling up their belongings, obviously getting ready to leave the town.
We are going further away from here. We are from Donetsk and we moved here hoping it will be better, but it's not better. We are going wherever the road takes us.
Government forces have launched a counter-offensive near the southeastern port city of Mariupol. They claim to have gained territory from Russian-backed rebels who want greater independence with what they are calling people's republics in the east of the country. President Petro Poroshenko said Ukraine is prepared to introduce martial law across the country if the separatist conflict in the east escalates further.
I, the government and the parliament are ready to take a decision to introduce martial law across the whole territory of Ukraine.
The ongoing violence in eastern Ukraine comes hours ahead of a peace summit of leaders of France, Germany, Russia and Ukraine in neighboring Belarus. The leaders hope to secure an unconditional ceasefire after 9 months of armed conflict. The fighting in Ukraine has already killed more than 5,000 people. Radha Bush for the news at 10.
Boston Dynamics, a subsidiary of Google, has unveiled a new robot dog named Spot on YouTube that has gone viral. Spot can be seen walking both indoors and outdoors, climbing stairs and running. The video also shows Spot being slightly kicked to demonstrate its use of a sensor that helps it navigate and walk. Weighing 73 kilos, Spot is the latest and most agile in a long line of canine robots from Boston Dynamics. The robot dog has been built to search and rescue or scouting. Tomáš Berdych of the Czech Republic booked himself a place in the second round of the World Indoor Tournament with a 6-1, 7-5 win over Tobias Kamke of Germany in Rotterdam, Netherlands. Berdych, semi-finalist at the last month's Australian Open and seeded third in Rotterdam, broke the unseeded German serve twice in the opening set to take it 6-1. Despite this, Kamke dropped his serve in the next game, leaving Berdych to serve out for victory in 89 minutes. The last match of the day saw Gaël Monfils defeat fellow Frenchman Edouard Roger Vasselin 6-3, 6-2. Monfils took Roger Vasselin's serve at the start of the second set and then again at the seventh game to wrap up a comfortable win in just 68 minutes. And over to mountaineering. After a grueling journey up into the air of the Andes mountain in Chile, an expedition team announced it has discovered the remain of a passenger plane that went missing over half a century ago. The aircraft was reported missing on April 3, 1961, near the city of Linares, some 300 kilometers south of the Chilean capital, Santiago. Members of the team made 2 unsuccessful attempts last year to locate the plane, and the third time was the charm. January to April is typically the best time of the year to climb the Chilean Andes south of the capital. And finally, a quick look at the weather forecast. Cold and cloudy tonight across the country with thundery downpours and southwesterly gusty winds blowing dust that has reduced visibility in most regions. Light snowfalls is forecast in northeastern and central highlands. Tomorrow it could continue to be cold and rainy in most regions with showers and snowfalls in the early morning hours. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect chilly conditions with gusty and dusty winds and choppy seas. Security and other state agencies and the Greater Amman municipality have taken precautions and said they are ready to deal with any storm-related emergencies. The Public Security Department said it would issue updates on the condition of the roads nationwide, while civil defense crew and machinery were made ready to serve the weather. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. And to end the news, here's a recap of our top stories. His Majesty the King and the Czech President discuss anti-terrorism efforts and other Middle East developments. The King calls for a collective Islamic effort to fight the misleading ideology and actions committed by extremist organizations in the name of Islam. Yemenis staged the largest protest yet against the takeover by the Houthi militia after Western countries shut their embassies in Yemen over security fears. And with this we come to an end. I'm Farah Ajlouni. Thank you for watching. Have a good night.